Welcome back to another episode of Tea Time with Mary. I am your host, Miss Mary Lou. And boy, we're looking up where we are. We're in my classic setup over here. It's so nice. I did so many of the first Tea Time with Mary episodes over here. But this is not just arbitrarily set up. Oh no, I have a reason. I have a guest on the show today. Oh my God. I am going to be starting a new segment on Tea Time with Mary. I had a couple of you guys request to have regular nerd content, so it's time for an episode of Nerd Fix! Nerd Fix! It's time for Nerd Fix. Welcome to Nerd Fix, where you get your fixin' for all your nerdy needs. Instead of just focusing on something like board games, I thought doing an overall nerdy regular segment would open up the world into wonderful possibilities. So my guest for today is Todd. He's one of my favorite people in Los Angeles, and we are gonna be talking about Star Wars, but not just any whatever about Star Wars. We're going to be talking about a Star Wars blog post that broke the internet back in 2011. If you've never heard of it before, you are in for a treat. If you have heard of it before, you are in for some fun chit-chatting about nerd things. Nerd facts. But first, let's drink some tea. That was really creepy. Yeah. But first, let's drink some tea. Ooh. Let's do this.
It's tea time.
It's tea time with Mary. Hello, how are you today?
I'm doing quite well. How about yourself?
I'm doing so well now that you're here. This is Todd, everybody. Todd is actually a film historian, so he knows what he's talking about. He's super smart, and he had the idea to come on and talk about Star Wars today.
One of the very most coolest things in the world.
And a perfect way to start out our Nerd Fix segment here on Tea Time with Mary for regular nerd stuff coming your way. So thanks for kicking it off.
I'm so glad to be here.
So, how did Star Wars come into your life?
Star Wars came into my life through just my family and family friends. We definitely had the special edition 1997 3 VHS box set of the original trilogy.
Did it have like different faces on everyone?
Oh yeah. It was, I believe it was Darth Vader on New Hope, a Stormtrooper on Empire, and Yoda on
I think I had that same boxed set at my house.
Yep. I must admit, as a small child, I was very apprehensive about watching Star Wars because I looked at the back of the VHS and some of those aliens and robots kind of freaked me out as a little kid.
Yeah, they were really scary. And I mean, I admit, even watching Star Wars as a young child, because my father was a huge Star Wars fan, so he made sure that was a part of our lives. I didn't really understand the plot from a political standpoint, but for me, it was all about the relationships.
Totally.
So I watched as a youngin' from that perspective. I still loved it because I could still find a lot of joy and follow the story of how the characters related to one another.
Definitely.
Which, I mean, is like one of the most important parts of Star Wars, so that's not bad for a 6-year-old.
Yeah, and honestly, like, coming to it today after all these years, I feel like that is sort of the most important thing about it, is that what really makes these movies last and what makes them important is that it is just a really good story about these characters and the plight that they're in, which, interestingly enough, is what Machete Order really owns in on.
So, what is this Machete Order?
The Machete Order, or Machete, was originally published or proposed by a guy named Rod Hilton in 2011 on his blog called Absolutely No Machete Juggling, which is an inside joke of his own. His blog mostly focuses on computer programming.
Right, he's like an engineer, right?
Yeah. So this was a blog post he put up in 2011 where he talked about one of the problems about introducing Star Wars to people who've never seen it before. Because, as many people know, you have a bit of a quandary when it comes to that. Do you show them the original trilogy, or do you show them the prequel trilogy first?
Yeah.
I think we can definitely agree, as Star Wars fans, we love the original trilogy, and we always have problems, let's say, with the prequel trilogy.
Yes, so the wonderful thing about this Machete Order is it's a very smart way of approaching it. I know if someone has never seen Star Wars before, it can be really daunting, especially because there's such a huge fandom behind it, and Disney is cranking out one a year now.
There's basically going to be Star Wars movies until we die.
Until we die.
It seems
and
like.
I'm looking forward to that. Maybe I'll be in the Star Wars movie one day. That would be a journey.
Yeah. I think many people agree that really the best storytelling is in that original trilogy. And so, number one.
I agree.
Yeah. Many Star Wars fans usually just refer to the original trilogy as 4, 5, and 6 because later George Lucas decided to make a prequel trilogy that he dubbed 1, 2, and 3.
I admit I was definitely in the target age group when the first movie came out, episode 1.
As was I.
Jar Jar Binks wasn't terribly annoying exciting to me at the time, but
yeah, if we're doing, you know, confession, I actually did like Jar Jar Binks when I saw the movies for the first time.
I did too.
But I've later come to my senses.
So what is the order of movies that he recommends?
Rod Hilton recommends in the Machete Order is to watch number 4 and 5, which are the first 2 Star Wars movies ever made, A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. Now, at the end of Empire Strikes Back, there is a great twist and reveal.
If you don't know this already, what are you doing with your life? So I would say spoiler alert, but go ahead.
Yeah, if you're someone who honestly hasn't seen these movies before and you're interested in looking at them, find a friend who can introduce them to you, because Star Wars movies really should be enjoyed as a community with other people.
I agree.
But if you are someone who wants to show Star Wars to someone for the first time who has not seen it,
watch the rest of this video.
Watch the rest of this video. So after you've watched A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back, you find out Darth Vader is Luke's father.
Luke, I am your father. I've made that joke on the show before, so
nice.
No mystery.
Interestingly enough, when Empire first came out in 1980, a lot of audiences didn't believe that line when it happened. There was a lot of speculation of maybe that was a lie. Nobody really knew for sure. So if you come to that point, it isn't really quite for sure, because Luke himself at the end of that movie is questioning whether Darth Vader's his father.
No, I lost my hand. I'm so upset about it.
He gets his hand cut off so much. That's how much he doesn't want to believe it. James Earl Jones, actually, when he read that line for the first time, he assumed he's lying. I wonder how they're going to play out that line in the next movie.
Oh, man.
So, after you've watched Empire, the trick then is not to go right to Return of the Jedi, but instead go back. And not to number 1, episode 1, but to episode 2 and 3. And essentially what you're getting is you're finding out how Darth Vader became Darth Vader.
Yeah, which I think, as far as we're going back to talking about relationships in the story, I think creates the strongest connection, and episode 1 is actually not on this list at all.
Yep, for a couple reasons. One, it's not a very good movie, but what Machete Order really does focus on is the fact that the Star Wars movies are really about Luke Skywalker's story, and that's what this whole structure is about. By going back on 2 and 3, you get sort of a parallel between Anakin Skywalker and Luke Skywalker. Now, that story of Anakin Skywalker doesn't really get much focus in episode 1. It's a lot of just backstory that doesn't really kind of lead anywhere.
And a lot of CGI.
Yeah.
I totally had Star Wars Pod Racer on my PC as a kid.
Me too.
Yep.
Me too.
Good times.
By going back and just focusing on episode 2 and 3, you get a much more concise story about really the Skywalker lineage.
You have a big reveal at the end of episode 3, which is perfect before you hop into episode 6. You find out during childbirth that Luke and Leia are siblings, which has not been revealed yet until episode 6. Which, so after episode 3, you find out that they're twins, and you hop to episode 6, and you're like, oh, they totally kissed, and we know that they're brother and sister.
And one of the cool things actually about that reveal happening at the end of episode 3 is that it's arguably actually a better reveal than it is in the beginning of Return of the Jedi.
But you have a sister.
When Ben Kenobi does come and confirm that to Luke Skywalker in Return of the Jedi, it packs an even more emotional punch. So it's really nice. Once you, again, after you've done episode 2 and 3, you now know how Vader became Vader. You know that it's true that he is Luke's father. You know that Luke and Leia are twins. And now you're getting the culmination of both of those stories together in Return of the Jedi. You see Luke Skywalker bringing his father back from the dark to the light. You see the redemption of Darth Vader. Yeah, you get the culmination of both stories together in one big finale.
And little teddy bears.
That's true.
I was all about those Ewoks when I was a kid. They have backpacks that are Ewoks.
I think I saw those before.
So, because like they carry them around. They also have Yoda backpacks.
Nice,
and
nice.
you can be like, I'm training.
I actually recently had a friend who was not familiar with the Star Wars movies and hadn't seen them before. And I'd always wanted to show someone these movies with this order for the first time.
Which is really exciting, because I feel like most of the people I know have seen Star Wars at least 25 times.
Exactly, yeah. Unfortunately, this friend had already seen the new Star Wars Force Awakens and Rogue One. That being said, I mean, if there's anyone out there who you know is starting to see these new Star Wars movies and still hasn't seen the originals, I think watching in this order really helps to understand the backstory. And one thing that I think is interesting about showing people the Star Wars movies for the first time is that sometimes there are people out there who aren't that interested in watching what they call old movies. They just think anything that was made before they were born, sometimes they're not really into.
Who are these people?
I know, right? But the thing about the Star Wars movies is that both Star Wars and Empire, the effects are really groundbreaking for their time. And I think it can be really impressive to show people these movies, because sometimes people don't think that the visuals can be as good as they were, you know, in 1977 and 80.
I mean, there were also a lot of practical effects, which is something that I really love about the new movies, is they have used a lot of practical effects. To jump to the new movies, one thing that I really like about it is I feel like a lot of people, not just in the special effects department, but in all departments working on the film, were people who really love Star Wars.
Totally.
So where do the new movies fit into this whole Machete Order?
Rod Hilton, the guy that originally proposed this order, eventually wrote a subsequent follow-up blog and entry where he talked about the way that this Machete Order had gained a lot of popularity leading up to the new movies. And a lot of people began asking him, where do the new movies fit in? And really, again, he emphasizes the fact that this Machete Order is about focusing on Luke's story. It's a pretty self-contained narrative. So really, once you've done that, you can really watch the rest of the main episode movies as they come out from here on out. As long as those keep coming out, you can just keep watching those in those order.
Actually, I think this is an interesting thought. I really like the perspective that the movies are actually about the Kenobis. Theory leading up into the next movie, Obi-Wan Kenobi is a great character. I can't wait for his movie. I hope Ewan McGregor does it, putting that into the universe. The movie coming out this December, which is going to be a sequel to The Force Awakens.
Yep.
I would love if Rey was a Kenobi.
I've definitely seen that theory floating around on the internet.
It would just make me really happy. She might be a member of the Skywalker family. It's definitely possible. I think that's what they want people to believe. It would just make me really happy if she was a Kenobi.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen Spaceballs?
Yes.
Pizza the Hut! That's a whole other episode, man.
Yeah, so Machete Order is, I think, a really great way to introduce people to Star Wars who've never seen it before. You really get to show them the glory that is the original trilogy, while also adding in some of the story elements from the prequel trilogy that you know did work to some extent and actually do help flesh out and expand that narrative into something, you know, really pretty awesome.
Even if you are looking to brush up on your Star Wars before the new movie comes out in December, try it this way. I'm gonna try it this way.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you can break the internet in 2011, there has to be something going on there.
Oh yeah. Highly recommend that you actually read the original post by Rod Hilton and its follow-up.
I'm gonna put the link to the blog post right at the top of the description box down below. So all you gotta do is click on it. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I had a blast.
I'm so happy I got to be here today.
Is there anywhere on the internet that people can find you?
I do have a Vimeo page, which I'm planning on updating pretty soon. I haven't updated in a while.
He's also an excellent director. That's how we met, actually.
Oh, what do you know?
So I'm gonna put all of his links as well in the description box below. So if you need more Todd in your life, he's a very smart, awesome guy. That's it for today's episode of Tea Time with Mary. Woo! Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you on Sunday. Cheers!
It's tea time with Mary.
1, 2, 3. Thanks for watching Tea Time with Mary. I hope to see you real soon. If you want to like, subscribe, and comment, I think that would be cool. Check out my Facebook.com/Teatime with Mary for all the content that's new. Or my Instagram, Twitch, and Twitter. I'm at Miss Mary Lou. So thanks again for joining us, and thanks for being a friend. We'll see you next Tuesday. The fun never ends on Tea Time with Mary.
Also, I found out today I don't own a Star Wars shirt. What happened?